Hello everyone, I have Ken Johnston here with me today. He's one of my Systems Academy students that I started working with late last year. And Ken is one of the dream student that you can have, that you can wish for, and if you're lucky, you can get. And it has been really a privilege working with him throughout the past year till now in the Systems Academy program. And I'd been very interested, for the reasons that you're going to find out, to see how Ken will turn out as a systematic trader because of his background. So without further ado, Ken, it's my great pleasure to have you here today with me. Thanks for your time to participate in this. Would you take a minute to introduce yourself and give some information about your background?
Sure. My pleasure, Ali. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. My name is Ken Johnston. I am 44 years old. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I am a portfolio manager for a profession. I have been in the financial service industries since 1999 in many different roles. My current role is about 12 years. I work for a large global financial institution. Manage a fund. I trade on higher timeframes for a living. And when I was introduced to Al Brooks in 2015, I realized that that type of trading is where I want to eventually end up. And then I met Ali, and as you'll find out as we go through some of these questions, that the process of getting to that point has been accelerated beyond a level that I thought was even possible. So,
thank you. Thanks so much. So you said that you are in professional asset management. If this is not, if it is okay, like professionally, to ask you more specifics about the professional work that you do. What kind of asset management do you do? What are the sizes of capital that you normally work with? Because that would be inspiring for inspiring traders.
Sure. So as a portfolio manager, I run a fund of other people's money. It's mainly long-term investment. It's a long-only fund. There is just over, as of this morning, just over $800 million under my discretion. Type of trading is kind of split between buying individual stocks and holding them long term, and about 20% of the fund is traded tactically using price action that I originally learned from Al on higher time frames, weekly and monthly time frames.
Very, very interesting. That's super interesting, actually. So I remember that your background as a trader is multi-generational, if I recall correctly.
That's right. I started in 1999. My father was an advisor at that time, and he had started in the late 60s.
Wow.
So when I was in university, I started out kind of marketing for him, cold calling, and the first thing, interestingly, the first thing I did for him was cold call and invite people to a seminar which was being put on by the top economist at the firm at that time. And that was I'll never forget, it was in March of 1999.
Wow.
And the entire topic of the speech was tech stocks are here to stay and they are a fantastic investment. A week and a half later was the top, right before the market crashed. A week before. So my introduction to the industry was an expert being 100% completely wrong.
Right at the top of the bull market.
Right at the top. Could not have been more bullish at the time. Spent the entire hour talking about how, ultimately correct, but the timing could not have been worse for most of the people. And then most of the people who were there, they didn't make it through the next 2 years. And
my God,
a lot of them. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Absolutely. That's the problem with fundamental analysis and all the economic forecasts, that they are probably correct over a long period of time. But
Yes.
those guys are very bad in timing the market,
Yep.
which is
Horrible.
exactly the opposite position that we are taking as traders.
That's right. That's right.
To be very accurate with our timing.
So it was actually 2008 that first turned me on to technical analysis. If 1999 wasn't bad enough, but it was 2008. That was when I first started to actually manage money for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we have a huge research arm in the firm, especially at that time. And they were completely oblivious going into August of 2008. I remember I was actually in Toronto doing a training session in May and June of 2008. So that was just a few months after Bear Stearns had collapsed. Yep. And I remember asking our expert, the chief investment officer, asking him, I mean, is this not a problem? Like, do you not see this as being, you know, a potential issue? And I didn't know enough at the time to understand that, you know, the mortgage market was in a huge bubble and the banks were being fraudulent and there was all these issues under the surface. And he basically told me, don't worry about it. It's all priced into the market. And he goes, look, we're approaching highs for the year. The market had dipped about 20% from January to May and June of that year. And we had recovered just over half of it. And it looked like everything was back on and things were normal again. And they weren't concerned. And they were telling everybody, just buy what we tell you to buy. Don't ask any questions. Just listen to us. And then August of 2008 happened, September happened, and they didn't figure out that it was, you know, things like collateralized debt obligations and mortgage-backed securities and CDOs based on mortgage-backed securities and massive amounts of leverage. They didn't figure it out until about February of 2009. So 1 month before the bottom is when they started to really panic at that time. And they started to tell people to sell in January and February of 2009 after, I mean, November was probably the worst month I've ever seen, worse than March of 2020. We had days at that time where I remember taking screenshots where the market was down 1,000 points. That was the first time it had ever been down.
Yeah, that was
that much at that time. And so that was when I thought, these guys, that's twice they've got us in 1999 and in 2008, telling us that there's no problem, absolutely no forecasting any negative issues, no portfolio protection. So that's actually when I started to look at technical analysis. But the old style of technical analysis, you know, the MACDs and the RSIs, and then that didn't work very well either. So it basically came down to my father's old saying was, buy good companies and live long enough. So that was pretty much all we did, is just look for high quality companies.
Start young.
That's right. And just buy them and add to them and live long enough and you'll be good. But unfortunately for us, a lot of our clients at the time were retired. And that is not a good strategy when you're in
Not at all. You don't have the luxury of time.
No, and drawdowns can, you know, when you're taking money out during a drawdown just to live, it can severely impact your ability going forward. And, you know, the biggest fear for us is somebody having to change their lifestyle. That's just, that's an absolute nightmare.
No, I hear you on that. Interestingly, exactly when the time frame that you just mentioned was when I was getting started in trading options. And I remember that I had an iron condor position on the market on S&P at the time. And I was checking it every day. I was also working as a consultant at the time in IT. But I was checking my position every day. And it was comfortably within the range of the condor and going into expiration. So I thought, wow, from these two strikes that I have at both sides of the iron condor, they are so far apart thanks to the high volatility of the market that there is practically very low probability for the condor to not expire worthless. Now, what happened next over the next 3 days was something like a 4 standard deviation move in the market. And that condor was blasted to hell within the next week. And I was just astonished and dazzled that in all of these books that I've read, they say that a 2+ standard deviation move is very out of character for the market. And here we have like a 4 standard deviation move.
And since that point in time, we've had multiple. I remember in September, just before they passed the first TARP, that our institution sent out a note saying that if this doesn't get passed over the weekend, there's a chance on Monday that people are not going to be able to withdraw $20 from the bank, from a teller, from a bank machine. That's how perilous it was at that point in time.
Dire situations.
Yeah, how liquidity just evaporated, and they were in desperate need. And that was the American ones, but the problem was contagion had started to spread everywhere, and everybody was locked up. So
I was actually working for a bank at the time in the technology department of CIBC, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, as a senior architect. So I would see all the projects that would come and go to the department from all the lines of businesses that the bank operated on. And I clearly remember the day that I received this project from my boss, who was the VP of Technology and Operations at CIBC. And he said, this is a major project. I want it done with no hiccups, cleanly. And I looked at the documents, and it was infrastructure separation from CIBC's US operations.
Yeah.
And that was because in 2008,
oh my God,
CIBC was so exposed to the subprime mortgage in the US.
They had been acquiring US banks from 2006 to, they were the biggest in the US.
And that section of their business went down almost within a month. And then we had the project to separate the two networks because, well, there was nothing left of it. So it was like, okay, we're done with that part. Let's focus on Canada again.
They were usually the first ones to step into a hornet's nest historically. Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing time. So it was trial by fire in my career at the very start. That's for sure.
Yeah, I learned a lot in 2008 because I was actively trading the market. It was like, okay, learn to, tackle the market right now, or you cannot actually trade because it was just so volatile and big days. And
I remember that the first time we'd seen VIX over 40 at that point in time, and it was just mind blowing. And then eventually I think it went over 100 by the time we were done. But it was.
So when did you join Systems Academy?
So I think we met first at the end of July or beginning of August in 22. And that's when you accepted me into the program, and then we started in October.
After I came back from Orlando workshop.
That's right. So near the end of October.
So as an experienced trader and asset manager, what was your expectations for this, unknown program somebody just put on the internet?
Well, actually, because I had been in Al's room for so long, I had heard him talk about you previously, and he'd talk about Ali from Canada and programming his concepts into an algorithm, and maybe starting some sort of asset management firm. And I thought, oh wow, I would love to meet this guy. So
thanks to Al.
So my expectations of you were high before we met, because that article that you had put out on Brooks Trading Course, I thought it was just phenomenal. And then we met, and I thought, okay, this gentleman absolutely knows what he's talking about. And
thank you.
And so the expectations for you were astronomically high, and you exceeded them somehow.
Good to hear that.
and for the course,
it's a tough challenge to start from a high expectation and actually being able to, come up to those expectations.
Blew them away.
Thank you.
And then as far as the course content went, my expectations were, I didn't really know what to expect as for what you were going to present within your course. I knew that systematic trading was important because I had developed a inferior system to trade on higher time frames, which you very quickly pointed out to me when I shared it with you that it needed work. And I thought, oh boy, if you knew how much this was managed using this at the time. But I knew it needed to get better, and I knew I needed to improve. And I knew that I needed a system in order to accomplish the goal of switching from managing other people's money to just managing my own and achieving all the goals that I wanted to achieve myself through intraday trading. But yeah, they were high for you, and they were kind of unknown to high for the course. But I just knew that if I put the work in and put the effort in and did everything that I was supposed to do, that I would come out being successful because of the expectations I had for you. And that's
Great,
absolutely
thanks.
true.
Okay, so the interesting question that comes up is that, well, you are a professional trader, very comfortable with managing, big amounts of money.
Yep.
Probably the experiences that you have with losses is beyond the imagination of almost everyone who is watching this video.
Yes,
So you should be
I
very
guarantee you I've
comfortable.
lost more money than almost everybody.
Everybody, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what makes it difficult to switch to managing your own assets with this much of experience and background that you have, that you need something like Systems Academy to help you?
The speed of the intraday market is very different than trading on weekly and monthly timeframes. So, analyzing context on a weekly and monthly chart is, it's always difficult, but the time you have to make a decision is very long compared to the seconds that you have on the 5-minute chart.
Correct.
So it was the speed of the decision making, and it was also the confidence to like most of my studies and my professional development had been spent, about 80% of it was spent on portfolio management, designing portfolios, correlations within the portfolio, having a decent rate of return with low volatility, and all the science that goes behind that. So while I was in Al's class, had read the books, had done the 2014 video course and the 2018 course numerous times, I was mainly using that to help me recognize setups on higher time frames. And the thought of switching to intraday and doing it for myself, actually, I was nervous about it and concerned because I have a very privileged job. I'm extremely privileged to be in the position that I'm in. So to walk away from that and to move to a new career, basically, is terrifying. So I needed to have something in place, a system in place that I knew that I could trade consistently in order to be, consistently profitable, but to maintain the lifestyle that I have built up with my wife, and not having to take big steps back and then the risk of ruin and all of that stuff, right? So right now it's a steady paycheck. The risk is low compared to intraday trading. I would have to screw up royally to blow the fund, right? But you know that if you're trade too big on ES and make mistakes, you can dig yourself a big hole very, very quickly. So that's why I knew that I needed your help. It was really important in order to make that switch. I'd thought about doing it, but I knew that it would take me at least 5 or 10 years to get to the point where I was comfortable. And I think you've reduced that time dramatically.
Thank you. So what's the new time estimate now?
I can go pretty much any time, I think.
Really? Wow. That's impressive.
I think I have to, I am, as you know, I'm still in the testing phase. I still have to document this system. I do want to develop another one, even though the one that I'm working on now, I can trade in almost all timeframes except for tight trading ranges. I just find trading the breakout and follow through system in a broader trading range more work than it would be to have a reversal system for trading ranges.
Yeah.
But I would be
Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry.
I just want to say that those two are like yin and yang. So if you want to trade the full market cycle, you need a reversal system and you also need a breakout system.
Yeah, I mean, in certain trading ranges, I can catch a second leg and get out. And I've thought about maybe catching a second leg and doing a stop and reverse and catching the other leg down. But I think it's just easier to fade in the sell zones or in the buy zones of trading ranges than it is to try and manage a breakout and follow through system through a trading range. At least that's what I found through testing. So I think that it's probably going to take me a year to get the one system nailed down to a point where I'm confident trading it every day. I mean, I post charts and you see that it's going quite well. But I need another system at least to put my mind at ease. And I think it'll take at least probably 6 months to develop that one. So half the time to develop the second one, but it would take me to do the first one.
And that's usually what happens. You know, the first one takes the longest. Also, the first one is mostly for training and getting the experience of actually designing and working through all the steps of system development. And then the second one usually takes a lot less to work it out and make sure that it's fine-tuned and everything is good to go because of the experience of the first one.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten all the wrinkles out of the way and learning how to research and all that.
And also you will find yourself in it too. Like, what's my place in the whole system development process? That is unknown when somebody starts to go down this road of system development. They don't know their place in it. So the experience of building the first one also gives them that experience that, okay, my role is mostly this. And these are the areas that I have to influence because I want those parts to be a good fit for who I am as a trader. And those other areas, I'm just going to trust the math and leave it to the system to manage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and last year this time I knew none of that. So no, I mean, at least not to the extent I do now.
So I think the big surprise was that we never gave you a system. So you came to us to help you design a system or develop a system, but I didn't give you a system, right?
Nothing. No, you just pointed me towards the water and said, go learn to fish.
Yeah. So our approach is mostly just teaching the methodologies rather than giving people systems, because
but that's why it's successful, is because I have to learn to trade the system that works for me.
Yeah.
And you lay out the framework, and it's my responsibility to put the work in and make sure I do if I do everything that you tell me to do in regards to building a system, I have no doubt that I will be successful. No doubt.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. So you said you worked on a breakout system first, which is still progressing.
Yeah.
Can you show us a chart and sort of walk us through what you see when you look at the chart and how you trade it?
So using your paint bar that you provided us, Ali, on the breakout and follow through system, I'm basically looking for a good breakout or a good breakout and follow through. And I prefer to use limit orders when possible. So as an example, today we had a fairly bearish start to the day. I had a limit order bar. I don't trade before bar 8. So as soon as bar 8 closed, I put a limit order above it and got filled. And I got out on an average bar size at that point in time, which was down here. I can't remember the exit. We were still in a bearish trend here. So I actually had a limit order above bar 13. We had breakout, follow through another breakout bar, and had an exit there. I didn't take any of these trades. I was concerned that we might be entering leg 3. So leg 3 is an absolute no trade. 26 and 27 triggered for me. So I actually had a sell to close on 27 and got my average bar size exit. And then another trade that I took, breakout and follow through. I was busy through this whole section in the middle of the day, so I didn't do anything there. This was a first reversal, so I thought we would get a deep pullback and another move. So I actually just did a simple buy the close on bar 67 and got out on bar 69. So I had 5 trades, 5 wins.
That's great.
Kind of a ho-hum. No stress. Just put the order in, wait for it to get filled. If it doesn't get filled, I know there'll be another one later on in the day.
This speaks quite a lot to your professionalism of execution on the signals in the system. Because if you tell a lot of people that you have to wait for an hour for the chart to set up correctly, it's going to be too boring to them. People come to trading to have action and excitement as part of their job, or fun. And what you just showed me is completely on the opposite side. It's like 5 trades a day. That's less than 1 an hour.
Yep.
So
and that's the exact opposite of what I was doing before. Before I was, using what I had learned from Al was basically just take every trade that you see. So I was trying to take a trade on almost every bar, and it was overwhelming, and things were happening fast, and I was, profitable, but it was stressful. And then it was the one of the first tests I did on breakout and follow through was just simply putting limit orders above or below trend bars and waiting for them to get filled. So I did that on Trading Sim for 100 trades, and that's actually where I learned the patience and learned that just wait for it, find the setup, and wait for it to come to you, and they do. And then enter your trade. And on that first test, I was getting 3 to 4 trades a day, and that was just simply using limit orders above or below trend bars, nothing else. No buy the close, sell the close, nothing, just that. And I would learn by sitting there and just watching, and sometimes you'd wait for an hour, but you'd get your target or you'd get your fill. And yeah. But it was all the process of what you taught us and how to do the research and just wait for it and simplify. Don't try to take everything that you see on the trade. Focus on one specific thing. Learn that really, really well, master it, and then move on to another, setup that you're comfortable with. But yeah, no, that was from you, and that was me putting in the practice and the work, and
well, that's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, is this day a typical day of, 5 trades, or do you have days that have more trades than 5 or less trades than 5? Like, how does it feel?
I've had, I think the average is 6 to 8. I've had as many as 15 during a day, and I've had as few as 2 or 3. But on average, it's 6 to 8, and that's just with one system. So
that
like
roughly comes up to about 180 to 200 trades a month.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's quite a lot of trades.
And because I'm used to trading fairly large size, and kind of coming into this thing, I forgot to mention, I thought I'm comfortable trading large amounts of money. So maybe if I can find a system that gives me a high probability of making 2 points at a time, I could bet the farm on a 2-point move. And I'd be fine with that. So this system kind of fits into that area where I'm extremely comfortable taking the trade. So I don't have a problem putting on a large number of contracts. But going forward, I think it would be even less stressful to have more trades and to be able to trade smaller, kind of your methodology. But
yeah, basically what we want to do is to take the issue of risk out of the picture. So that the trader knows, if they follow the procedure that actually they have designed themselves, the risk is a non-issue, because the risk is actually favorable. It's something that you work with to generate your profits. So you want to actually risk as much as you can, but then the whole emotionality behind it goes away because you know how the system is going to manage that risk for you.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for sharing this chart. This is very interesting.
No problem.
I think you alluded to the question I wanted to ask you, but just to summarize it and bring all of the points that you mentioned to one area of focus. If you want to summarize the experience of Systems Academy. What was the impact of it on your trading?
One word I would say is precision. It gave me the confidence to take precise entries. I understand being disciplined and sticking to a system that comes from my professional career already, so I had that benefit. But the precision with which you can enter orders based on what you've shown us is just, it blows my mind. Absolutely, it's absolutely amazing. Like to the tick, to the absolute tick, you can place orders. So I think, to boil it down, on top of what I've already said, it's precision and professionalism, I think, is what it's the biggest impact on my intraday trading.
I agree with you because a few years ago, I was being interviewed by a prop trading company to hire me as a trader on their desk. And I was actually also interviewing them.
Yeah.
So they asked their questions, and then it was my turn to ask my questions. So I put up a chart and said, so the person who was interviewing me was the head of their futures trading desk. I asked him, okay, so this is a chart. For example, you're buying, how do you buy? Because I wanted to understand the mentality, the culture, and the mentality of the company. And what I saw, or what I heard and saw in that discussion, was that the precision was missing from his approach to trading. And I would frequently hear, okay, so I see this bar and then I'm going to buy in this area. And my next question was, what do you mean by this area? Exactly at what price would you put your order at? It was like, okay, it changes from time to time. So there's like ambiguous, no exact recommendation for it. But when it is time to buy, you start buying.
Yeah.
And then he asked me,
like a shotgun approach.
Yeah. And then he asked me, so what's your approach? And I said, I know exactly down to the tick where my order goes with what kind of order. Is it a stop? Is it a limit? Is it a market order? But the price is known down to the tick. And he was surprised. So he said, that's not possible. And I said, oh, yeah, it is possible.
I would have said the same thing. No way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing.
And that conversation, actually, when the interview was over, I thought, I'm not interested to work for them. Because I wanted to go to a company that helped me grow as a trader. And I just didn't see the opportunity there. Yeah, so that's actually one of the things that I tried to incorporate into the whole Systems Academy program, was to bring in that precision and try to impart it to...
Picked up on it right away. Yeah. Oh.
So if it was last year and you had an opportunity to talk to Ken last year, what would you tell him?
What would I tell him? Don't worry so much about programming and coding.
Good.
That was, I was just, especially, I mean, holy cow, you have some absolute galaxy brain people in this group with us who can code things. And when we first started the program, listening to them talk about, how they were doing the testing and using coding to help them with all the testing, I went, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Like, what's the, I'm going to fail. So I was terrified. And then you coached me through that and just said, relax, I'll take care of the coding, prove it on Excel, and just start doing your testing. And I did that, and everything worked out just fine. So for me, it would be, don't waste any time worrying about learning to program at this point. Learn to build a system, learn the process in place. And then once you get that, focus on the programming and coding later.
Yeah. Yeah, programming can be a double-edged sword for systematic traders. The ones who are really deep into it and they're gods of programming, they can basically turn an idea into a piece of code instantly. I've seen that it could be detrimental to their success, because then they miss out on this whole other part of the whole system development process and trading, that, well, you first have to understand the market and the process of system development well.
Yeah.
And then based on that, you can turn it into, a piece of code that can work for you.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the don't worry about programming, and then
Yeah.
just focus on just a few setups at a time and learn those very, very well, and don't worry about trying to trade the whole aspect of every day, every bar.
So if you have to do this again, what would you do differently? Just curious. Because you have done so well in this program.
Things that are within my control, not a whole lot. Things that are outside of my control, add more hours to the day. So I have more time to work on it because I fell in love with building the systems and doing the research quite quickly. But I think I've worked really hard at the program. I've put in all the time that I could to get to the point that I'm at now. So just do what I did already and just listen and take everything that you say to heart and try it out and be curious, and it's kind of what I did. So yeah.
So what would you, based on your experience, say, what's the time commitment that somebody has to have it if they come to study with us?
It's quite a bit. 15, 20 hours a week.
Yeah, that's about right.
I would say more if you can. It depends on your interests, right? So I mean, the spreadsheet now, I don't know how many ideas I've got that I want to research now going forward. There's just so many, because you just find so many interesting things as you're just working on one setup that yeah.
The market starts to reveal its secrets to you once you do
right.
research.
And you just, well, how does that work? And what can I do differently there? And what if I did that versus this? And so it just opens up this whole universe, I should say, bigger than a world of possibilities.
Yeah. Market is very kind to researchers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And very unkind to unprepared traders.
Yeah. I mean, at a minimum, I would say, it depends obviously on your capabilities, but 15 hours a week, I would say, would be the absolute minimum to get one system done fully in 12 months.
Yeah, at least the first one takes longest actually of all of them.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like some of my classmates who can build 8 in a year, but
that's great.
I don't know how many systems James has built, but
well, we have exceptions.
Yeah, that's
in every field, and
that's right.
He was probably the fastest person to go through all of it. So I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Wow, incredibly intelligent.
Any other experiences or comments that you would like to share with others or considering this program?
Do it. I mean, it's that easy. If you love trading and this is what you want to do, and you've got the time and the funds to jump into a program like this, do it. Just put all your apprehensions behind you, jump in feet first, work as hard as you can, and you will be successful. I mean, Ali is such an amazing teacher and so thoughtful and so kind with his time. And so open to everybody's different learning abilities and learning styles. And I've never had ever in my career have I ever met, I'll call you a trainer, that exhibits all of the important qualities that you do.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, it's the truth. It couldn't be more sincere.
Thanks so much. But I was looking for something like this early in my trading development or trading career, and I couldn't find anything. And so I thought, all right, so if I'm going to do it, I'm going to first imagine the younger version of me who was looking for good quality training, and give that person whatever I wanted to have back then. I couldn't find it. So that was the inspiration really behind Systems Academy, to basically provide everything that I wished and really yearned to have back in early 2000s, and I couldn't, and just bring that to other people. But thanks so much. That was a good.
That's so rare in this industry, because most people who develop your level of skill just kind of scurry off into a corner and make themselves unbelievably rich and protect and don't share, and that's kind of the methodology of the entire industry. So you're just like just the diamond. It's unbelievable that
Thank you. I just think that the world is much bigger than that. So
yeah,
there's no shortage of anything, including money, but there is a lot of shortage of sincere help and love and caring for everyone. So if you give that, well, there's no shortage of money anyways, so you wouldn't lose anything. You're just going to gain. You're going to have relationships that are going to last a lifetime. And life is really about doing meaningful work and having meaningful relationships.
Yeah, I can tell you, when my wife went through her cancer, we met a lot of people that were in dire situations, and you would sit there during treatment, which would be 6 hours, and you would talk to these people, and you would, every single one of them in some form or another would say, geez, I wish I had spent more time taking care of myself, and I wish I had spent more time building relationships with people. Nobody talked about, I wish I had built a bigger house or had done anything like it was all. So for you to understand those qualities, that's what makes you so special, and that's why this program is just, it's unbelievable.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate
my pleasure, Ali.
Speaking with me for an hour today and your time. I know you're very, very busy and have lots of big responsibilities, but I really appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate this little chat. It was so enlightening. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali.
Have a good one.
Thank you.